Welcome to Behind the Build. I'm your host, Jonathan Jacobs, and today I've got with me a trifecta. I've got three gentlemen with me today who make up a relatively exciting office here in Toronto. One of the individuals at an event a month and a bit ago. And it's funny, as I do these lead-ins, I know that as you're seeing the podcast online, you already know who I have with me. So today, I am excited to share with you all that I've got Office U with me. I have Nicolas Koff, I have Uros Novakovic, and I have Sebastian Bartnicki. Did you get it?
Yeah.
You were
Like
good.
85%?
It's fine. It's fine.
120%.
Okay, good.
You were very good.
Okay, good. One of the exciting things to tell you all was the extreme complication of setting up today's podcast. Sitting at my dining room table where we had lunch, where I have lunch with lots of people because there's four of us here. The gentlemen were very patient with me as I figured out audio issues. But we're not here to talk about all that. We're here to talk about the three of you. So thanks for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having us. This is great.
I've been looking forward to it. After Gabriel introduced the two of us, and I say the two of us, I am referring to you, Nico. When we met, we kind of had a great time that night. We met at the Impossible Toronto event. So thank you, Zoe, for putting on that event and bringing good people together. And we had just a great chat. And so I said, we should have you on the podcast. And so here we are sitting.
We've been waiting for it for weeks, so it's exciting for us to be here.
So I know that you necessarily haven't heard all of it in the past, which is for me great because it means that the questions come at you and they're conversational style. So I will go kind of across the table, and so everyone listening can understand. So where I'm sitting, I have Sebastien to my left, I have Nico directly across from me, and I've got Uros over to my right. So I will move clockwise through the order if we don't mind. So.
Okay.
Before we jump into the conversation, a quick note from a partner we genuinely love working with. Today's episode, like many we've had so far, is supported by our partner, The Doors. If you're thinking about glass, whether it's double pane or triple pane, big lift and slide moments, or even interior partition glass, perhaps it's a curve, they can handle the whole scope. And I'm not talking about small pieces either. They can do spans of up to 20 feet tall or 20 feet wide, and they can move up to a ton of glass safely because they've got the right equipment for it. We love that they're a true one-stop shop. Their own crane, their own equipment, aluminum cutting and fabrication. They own their own installation crews. No mystery handoffs, no extra party coming in at the last minute. They control the process end to end, so you know what you're getting. If you're trying to create something really that highlights the connection between the inside and the outside, they're worth talking to. And if you want an intro, just email me and I'll connect you. It's Jonathan, Jonathan, @waldenhomes.ca. Now, back to the crew. I would start off asking you, tell me about your life as a child and your early interests. Were you creative? And I'm talking to you, Sebastian.
All right. So we're going way back.
Yeah, that's as your earliest memories.
Okay. I have a very poor memory, but what I can remember is that I was into Lego like a lot of kids, and I was very, very serious about it. I was committed to just getting every detail right. But I didn't really have many thoughts about architecture. It was just all spaceships and things like that.
Yeah, that's okay. There's a question about the Lego.
Yeah.
Did you have it organized based on the color, size, or was it based on kit?
It was semi-organized. I made it a conscious effort to only buy the Space Police sets because they had the best colors for me at the time, and that way I could be assured that everything was coordinated.
Okay.
But yeah, I think I was definitely into Lego, and I was early early quite into drawing and painting, and I had a lot of enthusiasm for that kind of work.
Did you ever take after school programs with drawing?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I would do after school things with painting and drawing, and I was kind of very happy at in high school getting further along, and I think it was my high school art teacher, Mr. Milne, who got me into architecture and first introduced the idea that I could do it.
Shout out to Mr. Milne.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Milne. And I think part of it was that I had been kind of encouraged to go into engineering by my father, and I think that he had always imagined that I would have this career as a robotics engineer or something, and architecture seemed to bridge between science and art in an interesting way to me. I now know that that's a bit naive, but that at the time made a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied to a couple of schools, and I was very fortunate to get into Waterloo School of Architecture. And that's as an undergrad, that's where I met Uros. We were in the same class. And
so you started in the same year?
Yeah, we were in the same year. So
Amazing.
it's the School of Architecture at Waterloo is kind of unusual. You've probably had a few other guests who went there.
Lots. I
So-
did a live recording there.
Yeah, so it's a very particular culture. It has a co-op program, so you spend a lot of time between your courses actually traveling and working in different places, which was amazing. But it was also off on its own. The School of Architecture had moved to Cambridge, Ontario, to a new building, and it was nice that it was a new building, but it was totally isolated.
Okay.
So it felt a little bit like a monastery, I would say. Good for undergrad, but I thought that this was maybe a little bit too isolated for growing as a professional. And I went to McGill for my master's, and then I ended up working at KPMG.
Okay.
So I did a year there.
You just did a huge fast track through like 25 years of life. That was so impressive.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a particularly, I would say, interesting childhood. I just grew up in Ontario. I don't have any amazing stories of world travel.
You don't need to. Because sometimes designing the police and Lego is exciting in itself. Because I could tell you that I was doing the same thing. I didn't see the world. I still haven't seen the world.
Yeah, I think anyway, it was Waterloo itself was a really formative experience, especially because of the Rome program.
Yeah.
So we would spend 4 months of the fourth year at a studio in Rome, and the director at the time, Rick Haldenby, was extraordinary. He was an archaeologist by training.
Isn't he still there?
No, I don't think he's the director anymore.
He's still there. He's no longer the director, but I think he's he does teach Rome. I think he's actually there permanently.
Yeah, and I think he could hold the class absolutely motionless for 3 or 4 hour lectures in the Roman Forum, just explaining the history of where we were.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
And
I've heard so many people speak so highly of him.
Yes, and I think it was really important that we had an archaeologist, somebody not an architect, heading the school to give us a level of perspective that otherwise wouldn't be there.
That's interesting. I've actually, in everyone that I've spoken to that has gone through that school, I've never heard anyone describe his educational knowledge as being like something that is a standalone differentiator.
Yeah, I think it was very important, and that, and also the presence of a cultural history program, which was a little bit unusual in that it really emphasized just history, teaching history to architects, and understanding how we fit into a much more complex context throughout history of patronage and of economics and of technology and politics. So all of this is kind of to say that I really responded very positively to all of that, because it kind of gave me the sense that we are actually doing something fairly significant, or we could be, and that there was a lot of latitude within the profession to go in a lot of different interesting directions. And I've never felt bored at all throughout my years as an architect. So I think that this is I was very happy that I made that choice.
I mean, it's funny. I've spoken to a lot of people that have gone through that program, and I don't think that I've heard someone describe that program in quite the same context as the way you just did. So it actually gave me, as someone that has nothing to do with architecture at all, in terms of my formal education by any means, a different perspective on it, on what that program, the foundation of what that program can create for you as a professional. Okay. Interesting. And so, and then you went to KPMB. So we'll stop there at that professional stage, and I'm going to move over to you, Nico.
Well, I mean, it's actually pretty interesting that Sebastian intro mentions archaeology, because I don't think I ever approached architecture from the point of view of wanting to be an architect.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't grow up wanting to be an architect. I knew of architecture. Both of my grandmothers wanted to be architects. Didn't manage to do it because of the war, because of structures in society at the time, and they ended up working for a lot of their life in professions that weren't what they wanted to do, which was architecture. So I knew of architecture, but I mean, I wanted to be an archaeologist. That's what I wanted to do initially as a child, in part because Indiana Jones is absolutely amazing.
No one's ever referenced Indiana Jones on here.
Well, you have not had the right people on the podcast. I'm sorry to say so, but Indiana Jones that was my way into archaeology. I loved archaeology. I mean, I was really fascinated by ancient cultures. Yes. I mean, not only the adventure side of it, but the fact that you could look at different cultures around the world and find different ways in which they've evolved based on climate, landscape, culture, societal structures, lots of different things that kind of impacted not only the way people structured their cities, but also the way they lived within their cities. And it's something that was really fascinating to me. And so, but I never really approached urbanism and architecture from the point of view of wanting to be an architect or an urbanist or any of these kind of design professions. I did like to draw a lot, but I think it wasn't until I went on a class trip in grade 5.
But before you get to this class trip,
okay.
I'm sorry. I know that this thing is about, and I say this podcast is about the evolution of you as professionals, but it's the small core things that add some brushstrokes to it, okay? The Indiana Jones adds some brushstrokes. What were some of the other things that you were interested in? Did you like to ride your bike and go off jumps? Did you like to take leaves that had fallen and trace over them to see the texture on the paper? As I know that it sounds silly, but those are some of the things that I find contribute to us in our interests and intrigue. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Did I like to take enormous amounts of risk and do crazy jumps? No, absolutely not. No, I was not.
Example.
But no, that was a good example. No, I mean, I mean, there are a few things that I did enjoy. I mean, I like to draw a lot. I did draw a lot. I really enjoyed. I mean, I enjoyed kind of exploring kind of nature. Yeah. There was a thing we used to go to Normandy. My grandparents had a place in Normandy near Trouville, and we really liked. Up to a point, we really liked going there, and it was we would explore the coast. And one of the absolutely amazing things about walking along the coast of Normandy is that, I mean, for better or for worse, you encounter a lot of bunkers from World War II. So you'll encounter kind of
history.
Yeah. You're walking along a piece of the shoreline, and you'll encounter a battery with a cannon still in there, and they'll never be removed, and there's something that's going to be in there. But there was that sense of discovery, of adventure, and you felt the weight of history, and it was something almost really kind of tangible. You could feel the weight of history within a place through the introduction of these buildings within a specific landscape, and that was always a really powerful feeling.
I didn't even grow up there, and I could feel that. I could get a sense of that. Just like a taste.
And that's something that I mean, and I feel like I've felt that in many other parts of the world, where I've potentially pushed myself to feel that in many parts of the world in order to maybe try to kind of engage with the local history, the local culture. But I don't think I've ever felt it as strongly as when I was growing up, going on those trips to Normandy.
Just to ensure that we're clear on this, you did not grow up here in Toronto.
I did not. That's right. That's probably an important fact to mention. I grew up in Paris. Okay. My mother's from Alsace. My father's from Paris, but originally from different parts from Eastern Europe. But so we grew up really in Paris until the age of 14 when moved to Canada.
Okay.
Long enough to have lost my French accent, even though I never did. So apologies about that.
It's okay. Very Canadian of you.
Oh, there you go. So I've at least gotten that.
Okay, and so tell me, like, what was it like briefly through that early stage of school?
I don't think I actually made that connection between what I thought of as archaeology and kind of discovery of the surroundings and kind of natural and built context with architecture until I went on a, so I mean I think it was in grade 5. I went on a school trip to Venice. And those are the kind of trips you can do when you're in Europe, and distances are shorter, and so
That's crazy.
Public school, European public school. This is what we could do back then.
Just going on a trip to Venice.
Just gonna go to Venice. And so I never thought about that back then. I didn't think about it as anything particularly special. But when we got there, it was a life-changing experience, and just being able to explore the city, seeing how things evolve so incredibly differently from the way Paris was structured or from the way any other city I'd seen before was structured. And it got me looking at just the structure of the buildings, the way they were built, how they were built on water, essentially.
Yeah.
And it was a fantastic experience. And I think it wasn't just about the buildings themselves. It was about the entire fabric that evolved from the construction of these individual buildings that created these amazing moments where you get absolutely lost in streets. And I mean, there's a wonderful quote from Proust, which I had not read back then, where he kind of mentions getting lost in a small kind of streets of Venice and getting so lost that at the end you almost feel like you're going to encounter yourself, and you're just going to run into yourself because you've kind of meandered so much.
Lost yourself.
Exactly, and you're going to just find yourself kind of looking at yourself at the end of one of these small streets, and it was a fantastic experience. And that teacher she was fantastic at kind of introducing kind of the entire spectrum of what goes into making a city what it is.
Yeah.
And she took us the next year on a trip to Archaeology, which is a place in the south of France, which was designed by this famous architect called Claude Nicolas Ledoux.
Okay.
And that was my first actual encounter with what it is to be an architect. They had an exhibition of his work, and his work is what's called architecture parlante, which is very it's architecture that believes in representing what it is about. So I don't mean to be crude, but for example, he designed. Well, okay, good. He designed. So he designed a brothel shaped like a phallus, and I tried to be as proper about it as possible.
He was really working during the megalomaniac phase of French architecture.
Yeah, that's right. And so, but that was an introduction to an actual architect. I did not know of the name of an architect. I did not know of the profession of an architect. And what I do now is very different from that. But it was really the introduction to a profession that is focused on looking at the surroundings, looking at the context, looking at your environment, and having an impact on it in very broad terms. And so I think that was really maybe what started kind of getting me into architecture as a profession that could bring everything together. It could bring the archaeology, it could bring the study of nature, it could bring all of these together, because architecture is a very general profession. It's one that allows you to do many, many, many things, to live many lives, depending on the project. I don't know what else to say. I think this is I think a good intro.
So, but school, where do you end up studying?
Oh, where did I go after that? Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Let me keep going. So after that, so I moved to Canada. Yeah, that's right. No, that was good for me. This is
Uros, like, okay, is it my turn?
Nico. I think at that point I had already learned everything I need to learn. No, so after that, so moved to Canada, and then did my undergrad at U of T, where I studied mostly East Asian studies, so history of Chinese, Japanese civilization. So focus on kind of the migration of Buddhism from India to China. So things that would not necessarily have much of a connection to architecture, but I did a minor in architecture at the same time.
Okay.
Studied in Hong Kong, and a lot of my work in Eastern Studies was still very much focused on architecture. So the way architecture was used as a tool to convey concepts, to convey ideas, and in this case, kind of Buddhist ideas. And so cave architecture, the different ways that architecture was structured, art was integrated within buildings. So there was still that heavy focus on architecture, even within my other fields of study. And at that point, then I decided to go full on into
like, stop denying this interest.
I was like, you know what, I might as well do this. I was like, let's get serious about this. So I but not that serious. So I went and applied for the architecture program at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. Got in, started studying there, and then I did an internship at MAD in Beijing that first summer. And at the end of that summer, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I like architecture, but I still believe that I want to have a broader field of view in my practice. So I applied for the landscape architecture masters, and so landscape architecture and regional planning, which is a program there. Got into that, and so I ended up doing a double master at the same time. And so I studied architecture and landscape architecture and 2 masters.
Okay, well, because why not?
Yeah, might as well. I just, I decided to focus, and I decided to unfocus. just took a step back here, and so I studied both of these, and that kind of took me, and I ended up essentially working in both architecture and landscape architecture firms. So I did some internships for Olin in Philadelphia, field operations in New York, Jean Nouvel in Paris.
I reached out to Jean Nouvel.
Oh, you did?
I did. I was denied.
That'd be a fun one.
I thought so.
Yeah, don't give up.
Look, it's always tomorrow.
It might still happen.
Well, so okay, so you worked there for a period of time.
I worked there I did a summer internship there, so that was a great experience, and I worked both on architecture and landscape kind of side of things there on a wild project, which. Can I talk about it? I'm not sure.
So if you're not sure, then let's not go there.
Yeah.
I'll use that as the segue to Uros.
That's right. That's a good timing for this.
You need to go back to the question for me.
The question?
Yeah, what was the original question?
Why are you here today?
That you invited us. Yeah.
The question was about the earliest memories of life for you and your keen interest at that stage of life, and kind of what has led you to where you are now, which is a relatively broad thing to try to surmise.
Yeah, no, I know that's why both Nico and Sebastien were going on for like a while, and
so what no one knows is that in the time that Uros has been here, he was able to walk away. He had a snack.
Yeah.
He went for a walk around the block.
yeah, all these things happened. Okay, I mean, I'll go through the early life and such. I'll try to be brief,
but not too brief. Don't
not
do
too
yourself
brief.
An injustice.
Yeah.
We talked about that with the last names.
Correct. You have a point there. I was born in Belgrade, which was then Yugoslavia, but I grew up in Prague. My earliest memories are really of Prague, early 90s, like 1990s Prague, which was, I think it was a magical time after the revolution.
Yeah.
It was a really great time to be there. And we immigrated to Canada around the same time as Nico did, like same age, 14, 15. So there's some familiarity with like what Nico was talking about growing up. I mean, in my case, growing up in a city and really leaving that city at what I think is probably not a very good time to leave that city. I think it was just about being 14, your world expands. Yeah. The city becomes your playground. Yeah. I started going to a new school there, which was on the other side of the city. I had to travel across the old town every single day, like in the morning and back. And it was like the city was becoming this great thing that was there for me as like a teenager. And then, coming to Canada, it did feel like a bit of a letdown in that sense, because I didn't think that Prague was special in any way while I was there. I just thought this is what cities are like. There are these like very urban environments with beautiful buildings and like parks and like very pedestrian friendly and really really fun places to be.
You came to Toronto.
And you come to Toronto and it is a bit of a letdown.
Sebastian, I could have told you.
I mean, I grew up in Oakville. It's like there was nothing to tell.
Yeah. So I think it was probably like a formative experience. But I think still that doesn't mean like I wanted to be an architect or an urbanist or anything like that.
Yeah.
After, I did apply to University of Waterloo, same as Sebastian, for the architecture program. At the time, like being 17, you don't really know what you're doing.
Hold on. You skipped 17 years.
I'm trying to be a bit fast.
I know. I want to know. Like,
you want some nitty gritty stuff in there,
I want to know
or
a little
some
bit
details.
about you as a kid. As a kid, having gone through this revolution and growing up in you said it was Belgrade.
I was born in Belgrade, but we moved
right?
we moved to Czech Republic, or to what was then Czechoslovakia, before the revolution. So it was still my earliest memories, I guess, would be socialist Prague.
Right.
That's my earliest memories. Yeah.
And what was that like for you as a kid?
Being 4.
Do you remember? Like, do you have any memory of this?
Yeah,
Okay.
of course. Yeah, it felt gray. There was difference now that people don't remember anymore between like different Eastern European countries. They had their own like versions of socialism, and the Yugoslav one, in which I was born, was a lot more open, kind of more liberal, lots of Western influence. Whereas Czechoslovakia in late 80s was like a very closed society. Sebastian, we talked about this before, because like at some point he imagined this and it was actually real. Like every bakery was called a bakery. Every fruit and vegetable store was called fruit and vegetable store. Like this is what it was like.
Where did you go? I went to the fruit and vegetable store. Yeah. Oh, amazing.
Yeah. And
how is it? It's good, but it's not as good as the other fruit and vegetable store.
No, they were all exactly the same. Yeah. And then, the revolution happened, and like everybody was, at least the way I remember it as like a 5-year-old, like what do I really remember? Yeah. Like it was kind of a time of, from my point of view, perceived great enthusiasm, and everybody was looking forward to the future being a great thing.
And then you moved.
Well, yeah, I was there for 11 years. I moved when I was a teenager to Toronto.
Okay. And so was it sorry, I'm struggling over the question because I had like 4 or 5 questions I was asking at the same time.
Go through all of them.
I'm going to ask this one. So when you're leaving, you pack up your house, and I didn't even ask you this, Nico, but like you leave and you're packing up your house, and I'm sorry, Sebastian, that this doesn't apply to you because we live dull lives here, but you pack up your home and everything and your family and all the rest of it, and you're getting. All of that goes into a crate, and it's going to get shipped across, or you're only going to bring what you're going to bring. So, but you arrive with this like level of probably both anxiety and excitement, and you arrive here, and at 14, what was it to arrive to Toronto?
We may have different.
Maybe Nico should answer that first. I'm curious what it was like for him. So for me, it felt like a letdown.
Okay.
Like, there was definitely excitement to be in a new place in North America and whatnot. I remember things tasting weird, like every single like the butter being salty. Do you remember that? It's just such a weird thing to taste the salty butter. Yeah. And then like the city being like, a lot harder to use. Even though my family really wanted to be like in an urban environment, like close to transit, like just like couldn't imagine living in the suburbs and things like that. So we moved like Eglinton West area. Yeah. So I still like walked to high school and everything, but it's a very different kind of walk. You're walking through a semi-suburban environment, even though it's considered like urban Toronto, and it is. It's just a lot less pretty, the city. And I think then you realize how, maybe the places you've seen in Europe, which is not just, Prague, but like think similar as French schools. We also had these trips to Italy and trips to Spain. And what I liked the most when I was in school in Czech Republic was what they call a school in nature, where like your whole class moves to some random small town in Czech Republic, and you're staying in like a little chateau or something. And
At what age?
I think they do it from very young age. Like, we talked about, you guys talked about camps, like the way you guys have camps here. There you have school in nature.
They're not the same thing.
It's
They're not the same thing.
It's a similar thing, but I remember these are really beautiful memories, because then your classmates, you're walking the Czech countryside, and you explore like, little castles, and it feels very informal in a way that like Nico was describing the Normandy thing, right? Like this kind of encounter with nature and with historical relics, cultural relics within that landscape. It feels very natural. Like there's something special about that. This is just kind of how the world is.
Quick pause for just a sec, because we recorded this whole conversation in my dining room, and it's right next to all of the appliances we got through Kaplan's. And honestly, it's just perfect for how today happened. So basically, we were right beside my kitchen. We shared lunch and a cold bubbly. We were ready to go. Perfectly chilled in my Fisher and Paykel fridge. And later on a little Friday afternoon, white wine showed up too. Also chilled exactly how it should be. And don't worry, nobody was driving anywhere. When we wrapped, everything went straight into the Jen Air dishwasher. It runs so quietly that my wife and I genuinely joke that we never know it's on. Yeah, I know, you can see the light and it's great. What we actually do is we use an elastic band and put it on the handle. So that way we know that it's running. And really, like, this is the Kaplan's difference. It's top quality brands, but also real experience behind the products. In their beautifully designed Muley showroom, they'll even walk you through with a top meal prepared by a chef. So you actually understand how the appliances work in your favor, whether you're a client or a design partner. If you want an introduction, email me and I'll connect you. Because what they'll want to do is understand, what do you want for your clients? What kind of experience do you want? And they can match you with the right salesperson to accommodate you in what you want as an experience. Email me. It's Jonathan, Jonathan @waldenhomes.ca. I'm happy to connect you. Now, let's get back to who.
So, I mean, yeah, that kind of, it really made me, I mean, I talked about this experience of living in Prague in my interview to WWII. I think really it was the interview was the moment where I decided to actually pursue architecture. Like, I don't think, when we were 17, like, you don't know what you want or anything like that. Like, I definitely didn't think
What were some of the core pieces that you utilized for your portfolio when you went? Like, so you're both we haven't just talked about what you used to do. Did you draw? Did you paint? What did you do?
I think we all did that.
I don't know.
Well, we all did Lego, I imagine.
You ever use mechanics?
Building sand.
Yes.
Meccano was great. Oh, I love Meccano.
I had Capsella, made little machines out of that. But no, I mean, Uros is right. I think ultimately, I don't think that the portfolio was very, very important. I think it was the interview. They got a sense of who people were, and it really.
But didn't the portfolio get you the interview?
Maybe, I don't know. I think it's honestly like the thing that it was a multi-stage process. Like they had you write a précis of a piece of fairly complex text, just to see if you could kind of understand and digest complicated ideas and present them in a way. There was this interview, and I think that it really wasn't academics that got people into school. And this is something it's worth saying if there's any young people listening who are interested in school in architecture. Is not really like you have to have a certain baseline level of academics, but this is fundamentally not engineering school. This is not something where your math skills are that important. We don't have insurance to do structural calculations. It was really, the conversation that we had with the professors and the staff and the committee that ultimately convinced them that you're an interesting person. That's what they were looking for.
Yeah, I think it was, I mean, the interview at WWII, I mean, we don't want this podcast to be like, from at least Sebastian's side, to be like a praise of the WWII program, which was very foundational for both of us.
Yeah.
But like the interview process, I think is a brilliant thing. I think every single university program should be interview based, because like
I had it.
You had it? That's great. Yeah. Where did you
I went to Guelph Humber.
Yeah, and it was interview too.
A joint program between Guelph University and Humber College when we were part of the first program. and you have to submit a portfolio. It was the same. So like Ryerson had broadcast TV, broadcast and print program there, and U of T had a mass comms, and the U of T program wasn't as exciting as the Ryerson program or what this program could have been. And so you had to submit a portfolio, then you had to go in person and write an essay in a certain time frame, and then you had to have an interview. If you made it through the portfolio and the essay, you got the interview. So
it's kind of very similar, yeah.
So to your point, they only accepted, I think it was 65 kids in this whole program out of, I think, a pool of around 800 to 1,000.
Yeah. I think
I agree with you.
Yeah, that's the right way to do it. Yeah.
And I think, and I'm happy to go into this in the next, as we get into the point where we start talking about you as a practice now collectively, but that interview process, if you think about it, you're probably in some ways applying that same process to when you have a client. And if you're not, should you?
Are you asking us whether we are interviewing our clients in the same way,
not
or whether
always-
our clients are interviewing us?
And I'm saying this openly, every single client, every client thinks that they are interviewing you, and they forget that at the same time that they're interviewing you, you're also interviewing them. Or maybe you're not. I don't know.
Sometimes we are.
I mean, sometimes, yeah.
I think inevitably you are, but I think whether you have the freedom to make a decision to say no is a different matter.
I think we always have the freedom to make that decision. I think it's about really kind of understanding. I mean, learning more about clients, what they like, what their experiences have been. I mean, architecture is a very personal discipline in many scenarios. I mean, when you're designing someone's home, when you're designing someone,
I think it's true. Like, there's a lot of things about what a client will like that they don't state.
Yeah.
They don't communicate adequately, and you have to interview them and get to know them in order to actually predict and get a sense of who they are as people, so you can actually show them things that are appropriate but also might surprise them.
Because they don't know how. People don't inherently know how to communicate what it is they want.
Yeah. So you just have to
try a little bit.
And that's the process you use with students when they're just applying, because of course they can't articulate all of this in a letter necessarily.
Yeah. So let's go, because we lightly touched on that. So let's go now to the professional spaces in which you worked. And I'm going to go now in the opposite direction. So I know, Sebastian, that means that you go last, but
yeah, well, I guess that's kind of following up with the WWII program and what it's like.
Okay.
Because I mean, I think Sebastian touched on it already, and you probably know it's a co-op program, which means that
you go to Rome,
which is a second grade thing. No, that doesn't mean that.
Sorry,
that's another thing.
Yeah,
co-op is like one. I think it was like a reform in the 60s or early 70s in Canada of universities that some of them introduced co-ops. It just means that you work or you get some work experience during your studies.
Okay.
So WWII is, I think, the most heavy co-op school. I think Carleton also has it. But what it meant for us is that from second year onwards, we were alternating a term in school and a term on a work term. I think this was like, it was, again, I don't want this to be like a praise of Waterloo undergrad, which is a great program, but it was a second grade thing. Interview is a great thing, Rome is a great thing, and the co-op is a great thing, cultural history is a great thing.
I don't think you can say you don't want to do that, but like if the experience you had was a fantastic experience, I don't see any shame in talking about something that was really formidable for you.
Okay, so as part of my co-op experience, I worked at two different firms in Shanghai at a very young age. As a 19-year-old, I went to Shanghai, and one of them was called A00. They're still around, and they were founded by two McGill grads who were probably in their 20s, who moved to Shanghai right after the school. They didn't speak. They were both Anglo Quebecers, not Chinese. Didn't speak a word of Chinese. They just moved to Shanghai because it was like they believed it was the thing to do in the late 90s, and it was absolutely the correct call. learned Chinese, started a small office that did like furniture design and mainly architecture for expats who were in the city. I thought this was the coolest. They were the coolest people. This was the coolest thing I have ever seen.
That's crazy.
And like they were like in their early 30s. I was 19, and they would take me to all these cool bars in Shanghai. And this is like, we're talking 2005 Shanghai, not now. I think it was very different place.
Looser.
Like a lot looser. There were only 2 subway lines. We were biking to the office, like me and this coincidentally Czech guy who also worked there. This huge guy, like I'm 6'2", he was like 6'4". 2 of us would share a bike, and this is how it was. This is what it was.
Hold on a second. When you say the 2 of you shared a bike, mean like you got it one day and he got it the next?
No.
Or there were 2 of you on the bike?
2 of us on the bike.
Okay, that's what I thought.
This is how it was. This is how it was in China.
So for anyone listening right now, we've made a couple of movie references. Now I'm going to go with E.T. and say that it was not E.T. This was like 2 grown men.
Yeah, two fairly large men biking every day on the same bike.
The handlebars were not originally dropped handlebars.
Yeah.
They became dropped.
Yeah. I have seen, I think it probably not the case in China anymore right now, but back then bike was a major
it's awesome.
Serious transportation vehicle. I've seen people transport like fridges, like proper size fridges on a bike, and you just lean to one side. There's a fridge leaning on the other side, and you bike like that. And it was also very common for like young women to just kind of like wait for somebody to pick them up on a bike to deliver them. So like, it was. Anyways, this is a huge tangent, but I think A00. If Sasha and Rafer are listening, I think to me they were like the model for what an architecture office should be.
Awesome.
And I've always wanted that. I always wanted to recreate that, or as close to it as possible.
Well,
that's so cool.
We're about to get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's my turn.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, no, I think I actually think I have to take this back a little bit and maybe answer Uros' first question or original question before I can move to the one about kind of formative work experiences.
Okay.
I think, I mean, I think one of my first formative work experiences was not in architecture at all. And that kind of gets back to the whole moving to Canada. And I don't actually think I had the same experience as Uros. I think I could very easily have had the same experience as Uros. I wasn't particularly overwhelmed by the city when I moved here, but I think I was absolutely thrilled to be leaving France.
Why?
And the main reason for that has absolutely everything to do with anti-Semitism, and I think that's one of the main reasons my parents moved to Canada. I mean, we'd get swastikas in the elevator on a daily basis. We had a teacher tell us that if we didn't get good grades, we'd get sent back to the gas chambers. Lots of just casual anti-Semitism, in many cases also racist. Like just a lot of things that made the day-to-day very stressful, very unpleasant. And to me, moving to Canada, as much as Toronto was a very, very different experience, we got milk out of plastic bags, which is incredibly weird.
It's so strange.
So strange, but even with all the very strange things that we had to adjust to, the large cars and the plastic bag of milk.
Why is milk in a plastic bag? Someone needs to redesign
it. I still have not figured that out, but even with that, it felt like such a relief to be in a place where what made me kind of a bit of an outcast was fully accepted, and what made me absolutely normal, which was speaking French, made me actually somewhat special, and I could get a job tutoring French. And that was actually my first job after we moved here. I started tutoring French at Forstall Tutoring, and it worked wonders on my self-esteem, because I actually felt like I had something to offer, and I was contributing something, and I felt like I had something to offer, and I had nothing to do with architecture. And honestly, I didn't actually get a proper architecture job until I got to grad school. My first architecture internship was actually after my first year of grad school, when I worked at Madden. Maybe I was drawn to to that for similar reasons as Uros. So I went to Beijing. I mean, one of the main reasons was that I just wanted to explore a different city and discover somewhere new. But it was a very exciting time, and it was the office was small. I don't know if you know Mad. They did. I think one of their first claim to fame here was the Absolute Towers in Mississauga. You know, those kind of spinny, twirly towers. And they were just working on that project when I joined the office, and it was a pretty small, really kind of like just really passionate office, and it felt like nothing was impossible. It felt like they were going to be a big deal, and it felt like they knew it, and they had that confidence, and they could dare to think that a small office could have a big impact, and that was absolutely fantastic. And I think it was a really, really great experience. I mean, it was also a great experience to be in Beijing. I shared an apartment with I guess one of my coworkers from MAD, and about 50,000 different cockroaches. But it was a great experience. We worked incredibly long hours. I think on most days we'd leave the office around midnight, 1 a.m. We'd go eat something on the streets that were still busy. And then we'd go home and we start again the next day at in the morning. And it felt like we were actually working. I mean, the hours were not sustainable, but we felt like we were working together towards a common goal. I mean, the hours kind of got to me at some point, and I just kind of
said bye-bye.
I was like, I can't do this anymore. And but it was a wonderful experience. And I mean, it just I think that was another great experience. Working for Jean Nouvel, I guess this was 2 years later. The year after, I worked at the University of Pennsylvania at the TC Chan Center on environmental sustainability measures, and kind of so it was a policy-based internship at the university. But the year after, I worked for Jean Nouvel in Paris, and that was an interesting experience, not necessarily just because of the work, but because of the going back to Paris and getting to experience the city from the perspective of an adult, and seeing a city with which I had I would say a complicated relationship. I was happy to leave it, but I was also happy to come back to it at that age, and to get to experience it, and to get to maybe give it another chance, and to
a different perspective, and also a different confidence in yourself.
That's right, exactly. And so rather than being someone that maybe was afraid to go to school every day, I felt confident to go about my day to day at that point in my life or in my career. And I had the confidence to go and explore the city and discover sides of it that I'd never seen. So it was in some ways kind of rediscovering a culture which I had pushed away, because at the time when I left, I was either going to be French or I was going to be Jewish, and I couldn't be both. And when I came back, I was able to reconcile both of those, and it felt good, and it felt. It felt like an amazing experience. I don't know if I've probably talked too much about my experiences, so I should. I'll leave the landscape for later.
Yes.
And
it is back to you, Sebastian.
And it's back to me. I'm. I guess work experience is similar to yours. I did that co-op, and ended up in New York City. Ended up in London for a full year in England. And although I can't say the offices were as exciting, I really took a lot from the cities that I was in. Even when I was in grad school in Montreal, the program was very short, but I learned so much just from living in Montreal and experiencing those different cities.
In Montreal, if anyone listening to this right now, just understand the basic is Montreal is not like Toronto, and Toronto is not like Montreal.
Not at all. It is the closest thing we have to a proper European city, and in some cases more European and more backwards than some European metropolises now. And I think probably what I took away from it was just this idea that it just expands your imagination about what a city could be. But work-wise, I was still looking for something that was really inspiring.
And?
Well, that's why we started our own office eventually.
Punchline.
I knew the end would get us there. So how did the three of you come together to be able to decide that this was something? The two of you knew each other, and I say the two of you, I'm pointing.
Yeah.
Okay. Uros and Sebastien, you knew each other from university. Had you kept in touch?
Yeah. We were always in touch, and I think it was after university, we went into the various jobs. I was working at a small firm up in North York. Uros was working at Zeidler Partnership with Nico, so that's how they know each other. And we were all a little bit bored at our jobs, and we started working nights and weekends on various competitions. We were just talking.
Together?
Yeah, well, initially it was just me and Uros, and then Nico was added to the whole,
To the Midnight Club.
to the work. And
what's the strongest object? Isn't the strongest object a triangle?
yeah,
That's right.
That's
That's
right.
right.
We balanced each other out so that we would have intractable arguments and never really solve anything. But
That's not true. Sorry, I know that I keep cutting you off, and I apologize. But in every single argument that doesn't come to an end, there is some form of a solution that was created. You know what that was? The need to argue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
I think this was a we were happy to argue. We had long discussions about every detail, but I think it was fun. Like we were trying to first of all enter whatever competitions we could.
Yeah.
There was a little thing in Berlin for like a more or less ideas competition for a little theater floating on the river Spree, which Uros and I entered, and we won, which was like very encouraging. And got to go to Berlin later on to kind of see the site and defend it as well.
So can I ask that question on this topic? How many people are applying to these types of competitions?
Sometimes hundreds. I mean, it depends on
hundreds, thousands. It's it depends on the competition. It's
So on a competition like that, could you guestimate?
I suppose you would get like 30 or 40 entries, maybe more.
That's it?
I can't recall.
Yeah.
I think the main thing is that the competitions are varying quality and seriousness. At the time, there was a kind of little economy of people running competitions to take the entry fees from naive students, and then the promised jury and prizes don't quite materialize.
Yes, a lot of competitions were scams.
So
Yeah.
for anyone out there
Yeah.
that is a student,
Yes.
this is a topic that has never been discussed on this podcast. So it is worth validating that if you are contemplating going into a competition, it is worth doing some due diligence on the people that are involved in the organization of it to know whether or not they are valid.
And be aware of what you're getting out of it.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing. Look at what you're getting out of it. I mean, it's a lot of them. You virtually get nothing out of them. You get potentially a portfolio piece, which you could have done on your own.
Right.
Yeah.
So with that said, sorry,
We'll
back to what you're saying.
we'll definitely return to competitions later.
Yeah.
But I think after that, we found another competition in South Korea for the National Museum complex in a city called Sejong, which was designed as the new administrative center of Seoul to basically move a lot of the critical ministries away from North Korea.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Way out of our league.
Yes,
competition.
it was way out of our league, but it was open and it was anonymous. And
That's
so we entered, and it was also two-stage. So, we could enter without a huge investment or having a giant team, just put forward an idea and just see, okay, maybe this will go somewhere. And it actually, we were chosen for the first stage, which was very surprising.
Okay, so hold on. Let's tap into that.
Yeah.
They have the date that they're going to announce whether or not you are selected to go through phase 1 to phase 2.
Yeah.
Do you come together to read this, or are you calling each other on the phone?
Oh, we do.
I think it was on the phone. I forget exactly how it happened, but it was very, very exciting.
Yeah, I mean the way it was, they essentially issued a list of numbers. We knew what our entry number was.
Yeah.
And it was.
Oh my God! You didn't remember it closer.
Would you remember it?
There was 0 or O in it. There was 6 and 7. There was 6, 7.
Oh yeah, that's right. So it's relevant. 6, 7. If any teenagers are listening.
No, let's not get
I
into that
wish that
again.
thing would just disappear. But
I blame brain damage, but anyway.
But yeah, no. So essentially, we had to go on the website at this specific time and look at this list of numbers, and it was the most stressful.
Yeah.
Okay, the second most stressful. Most stressful was potentially the end of the second phase.
Right.
But this was when we saw the number. We all just. It was.
It seemed impossible. Yeah.
It was clearly a typo on their part.
Earlier, you heard the guys talk about living in Europe and then moving to Toronto and how that shift changes your expectations of what cities and life can be. It's also a perfect lead into Quanta because they bring a very European approach to something we all dream about here in the GTA with our 40-degree summers. A backyard pool that feels transformative. The Quanta are a Toronto-based company that specifies in Italian pools. And they build biodesign, meaning you're not just dropping a pool in a standard box of concrete. This is a layered system designed around a natural look and a more refined build approach. The structure includes an elastic waterproof liner, a structural net, and a hand-modeled natural stone coating finished with a resin layer that can include microban protection, which is designed to help inhibit microbial growth on the surface. It sounds like a lot, but really what's interesting about this is that it can expand up to 300% per foot. So in plain terms, it's a premium European forward way to get a pool that looks incredible, feels connected to the landscape, and is built with materials and methods that are meant to perform. If you want an intro to a Quanta, email me and I'll connect you. It's Jonathan, Jonathan, at waldenhomes.ca. All right, back to that moment where we're staring at the shortlist number like there's no way that's actually us. Did you find new octaves of your voice?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first of all, we didn't find our voices at all. So it was absolutely amazing. I mean, it was something that was so out of our league. I mean, I mean, let me backtrack on this. It was so out of our league by North American standards. It is absolutely within our league by the standards of the rest of the world.
Yeah, if you're a small office but you believe in yourself, as A00 might have, or any of these other firms we've been talking about, yeah, you would just do it. And what we realized later was that a lot of big firms, even when they're applying for these speculative competitions, they're just putting teams of like students or interns on them. And so, you can actually compete quite well if you actually realize that, like, yeah, you are going up against not like some big name himself, but it's just
veterans.
A team.
Yeah, you're going up against amateurs.
You're going up against a team of people who have just as much experience as you do.
Yeah.
But in this case, I mean, we still won against Morphosis and Zaha and like lots of big offices that I assume put some fairly senior
resources,
people on it.
You would assume.
Yes.
And so we then had to assemble a team, and we had to call all these offices in Korea and find people who were willing to work with us. And
we had 2 weeks to assemble our team.
Yeah.
Actually, a little bit less than 2 weeks to find partners there, establish our working process, establish our legal structure. Everything had to be. I mean, even get our.
Yeah.
It was quite stressful.
I was the only person who was licensed, and that was a requirement. And my license came
Barely.
in the mail. It came in the mail like a day before the due date.
No way.
Yeah.
That's also coincidence. What if there was a postal strike?
Yeah,
that's it.
Right?
That would have been it. So I think we submitted the second round. And, during this time, we're just moonlighting from our offices. So we're working in Nico's living room until 2 a.m. with the cat on the table. And,
the cat like pawing at the drawings. And just,
yeah.
We had to submit these hand-bound packages for the competition. And they had to be hand-bound in a way that no one could do it here. So we looked around and we're like, who can hand stitch our packages? And we couldn't find anyone to do it within the timeline that we had. So we were sitting at 3 a.m. on the floor of my apartment, just hand stitching booklets. Our fingers hurt so badly.
With like YouTube open.
Yeah, like,
how to do it?
Thankfully,
Sebastian knew.
Sebastian, who knows all kinds of random things, knew how to do it.
That's what happens when you don't have to move here when you're 14. You were able to hone in on other skills.
It was us. It was us and my pregnant wife Marissa. We're just hand stitching these things, and it's
crazy.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we submitted that, and a few weeks later we learned that we had in fact won the competition.
Crazy.
Well, okay.
No, we went to Korea.
We went to Korea. So sorry, I'm
for the presentation.
Forgetting important things here. So yeah, we went to Korea. There was a very involved. There was a big jury. There was simultaneous translation. A lot of university professors and politicians, and we gave it. We made our presentation. Mm-hmm. We didn't see any of the preceding presentations because we were kind of quarantined from the rest. So
what year was this?
2017 or 16.
2016.
Late 2016.
Yeah, it was November
You said
2016.
quarantine. I was like, oh, hold on.
Oh no! We were just essentially we couldn't see any of the other competitors' presentations, so we weren't quarantined for any reasons of contagion.
So we had no idea. Are we embarrassing ourselves? Like, is this way not what they're expecting
Because
at all?
we're going against some pretty big offices.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's crazy.
And so we just go and we present, and then we didn't hear. I mean, we were supposed to hear back, I think the next day or 2 days later, or it was a couple of days later.
Yeah,
so we were just
a couple of days.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I went up to a monastery to I don't know, learn
Buddhist.
about Korean cooking from a wonderful nun called Jungkwan. It's her name. But essentially, so I was there when we got the call from a partner, like somewhere in the mountains where I had a horrible reception, and I get this call from a partner, and I can barely hear anything, and it's them just telling us that we won the competition.
No way.
Yeah. You can really. I mean, it's probably more rare now that these kind of open anonymous competitions exist, even over there. I think they probably still do, but at the time, this was like the most important competition in Korea. It was a really big deal. Yeah.
But
I think it was also in looking back at it, like I feel like we were the only team that actually treated the competition brief, which was a master plan, as a master plan.
Yeah, that's how you win competitions, kids. Just read what it asks you to do, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It was a master planning competition, but one where they had asked for entries from architects and landscape architects. So they ended up doing things that were like actually not very appropriate.
So, I mean, I would say that that's also interesting because between the three of you, you have the architecture history, but you also have, in some ways, that appreciation for archaeology, and you have the landscape architecture.
And this is critical. I think we took a very unique approach to the proposal in that we foregrounded and privileged architecture as like landscape as a structuring principle for everything we were doing. Essentially, every museum that was part of the master plan was associated with a particular landscape that was in some way developed out of what was there. The competition site is in the middle of like a vast park, and next to two rivers, and like we should have kind of introduced it a little bit more, but essentially it's a tabula rasa, but just the site all around it is like incredibly rich nature, and it's next to like a fast developing city. So there's all of this material to draw from, and that's what we pulled into the project through landscape, in part because we felt like architecture as these big powerful icons was an approach that was totally played out and wasn't interesting to us anymore.
What I find so interesting about this is like you're in this, you're also able to draw upon like what you lacked growing up in Oakville, right? In some capacity, like what should this be?
I would say that the majority of the creative direction was really these two guys.
But I'm gonna get there. But then you have what you're drawing upon from your experience having grown up in Paris, to what you talk about as the landscape in Normandy, to then what you talk about as your experience when you move here, to Uros, what you experience in like these different cities at the end of revolution. That's why I like to get into the history of each of you, because that's how you bring together what you end up putting out there as a plan.
Yeah, and
go ahead. Uros about to say something.
No, I think you're onto something in the sense that like the three of us together have like huge amount of like life experience of living in very, very like broad range of cities.
It's totally
and
different.
Whenever we talk about projects and during competition as well, like we are pulling on like all these things like from all over the place. Like
we all know Uros's like high school, like it's things like that we feel like we know personally. We understand Uros' high school because it's something that was formative for him. So things like that come in through different projects.
So tell me, I mean, because I want to get to know like the evolution of the practice and scales of project, variations of project, locations of project. I don't want to go into necessarily full-on specifics, because I think that the specifics can be brought forward if someone wanted to view it on your website, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to share that, and we'll share content through Instagram. So by the way, if you're listening to this, you can check out Behind the Build podcast, and we'll have features of projects that they want to share on the Behind the Build. You'll also be able to check out Office U on Instagram and on their website. Other area of opportunity is if you want. I actually share the stuff through LinkedIn, but I also do on Instagram the stories. So if there's anything specific that you can think of that you've ever designed or drawn that is not going to be a feature of a project, but more so about you, you can send that to me too, or upload that into there.
Oh, that's good.
And I've had people that have sent me stuff that they drew when they were 6 and 7, and I've put that up. And it's a cool way of being able to get to know you as individuals. So sorry that I've taken so long with that really long-winded message.
No, that's good.
So evolution of the practice.
Yeah, I mean, the evolution of the practice, I think our ideas in many ways have evolved, but also haven't evolved. I think, I mean, a lot of what you see in that original, in that maybe what we can consider our first project together, which is the museum, I mean, maybe our second project together. There was another one, the Takeshita concert, House of Music, but it's the second one, so.
Well, I think the point that Nico made actually during the intermission, if I should mention that or not.
It's okay. We took an intermission.
I can say that was that like that original project, the competition had in it pretty much at the time all the elements of what we believed in architecture should be, right? So I mean, integration with the landscape, flexible framework, allowing for diversity of use, allowing for diversity to emerge organically without us controlling the outcome right from the start. Like we kind of wanted to be, we wanted to step back a little bit and see our role as architects as somebody who is setting things up for nature and for other people to come in and kind of like have their imprint in the project. And I think that's something that we still believe in, that we have practiced later on in other competitions and other projects and would still like to do in the future. So like in this way, like that first competition had, kind of maybe exemplifies or integrates all of these elements. The way the business question is slightly different from this. I mean, we obviously did not have a very clear business model right at the start. We had to start an office because we had a very large commission that, as I think we also talked about briefly during the intermission, most people would have just gone to Korea and lived there.
Yeah, so this was like we had to take a pause for a moment, and we were just discussing things. And so one of those was that generally, if you win a commission like they had won, the expectation from Korea was that like they're going to go move there. Well, they didn't because they couldn't.
Yeah, well, yeah, we didn't. We didn't is the point. And then we were in a situation where we had a practice without really a clear business model. And we were, I think, torn whether to pursue competitions full-time, whether that could be a business model, because it seemed very feasible. Like Sebastian mentioned, like we won basically two. Yeah, it was very. It seemed very easy. It seemed very, very easy. But I think we were not necessarily committed enough to just doing that, and we had some projects locally. And I'm probably just going to trail off and let somebody else talk about.
I mean, and there were small projects locally. They were in no way to the scale of the projects that we had internationally, because the next year, I mean, after the year after we won the competition in Korea, we won another competition for a school in Prague, and that one also kind of had the same kind of idea. It's a very similar kind of approach to the project, that flexibility, that integration of landscape and architecture, and so it's those projects in some ways kind of carried our office for quite a while, and we worked on them for many years. I mean, the first phase of the National Museum complex opened in 2024 with the first major museum opening, and then the school in the Czech Republic still hasn't. It's in site prep stages. It still hasn't begun really kind of full-on construction. So this one is, I mean, ideally will be built in the next couple of years, but there are very long timelines for these projects, and in the meantime, we would get projects with much shorter timelines. So we'd get local residential projects, try to do other master plan projects, which is something that we very much enjoy doing. But so we had a very, I would say,
Diverse.
polarized, diverse, divided kind of business model.
Yeah, like I think that we had never had a clear idea that like, oh, we're just going to take this kind of project and be very good at it. And there's disadvantages to that, but also what was great is that we get to hop around and learn a lot of things and try different things. We've also done work for other offices that were over capacity, and they needed help on something, and we got an inside look into their world and working in various countries in Southeast Asia and so on. And I think that it's only been in the past, I would say, two years or so that we've started kind of really homing in on a body of work in Ontario that we can actually build on. And I think most recently we've started kind of building into the world of multi-unit residential, with a lot of focus, I think, on the whole question of the missing middle and how you actually achieve that on the ground. What are the barriers to making that happen? And I think that a lot of your guests have probably talked about this.
Yeah.
And so it's something that is, I think, a really fruitful area of work right now. And for me personally, it's also been nice to finally see some projects realized, because I really like construction. I was missing personally in competitions the feeling of actually being
On site.
really responsible and really on site,
Yeah.
and seeing through the project to its completion, and not just leaving it as a bunch of diagrams that would evolve later on. And I think that there's kind of like I don't think that we want to abandon competitions at all. Like, we still definitely want to do them, because
We still do them.
and we still do them, and they're very exciting and very rewarding. But it became clear that we can't rely on them to sustain the office.
Right.
And it's also made it possible for our office to really grow in a sustainable way.
Right.
But it's also a question of, and I'm kind of going to get back to the architects being generalists and having the ability to have multiple identities.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that keeps our day-to-day exciting
Yeah.
too. And the fact that one day we'll be working on a museum, another day we'll be working in a school, the next day we're doing horticultural plans and plans of like planting plans and things like that just kind of keep our day-to-day generally exciting and busy.
Yeah, and that all of these different streams cross-fertilize and they give us new ideas. We're working on a landscape master plan right now where greenhouses and horticulture are playing a big role, but we're starting to think, okay, how can that interact with building housing and the whole issue of like climate? I'm personally very interested in the works of the French architects like Sebastian and Bartnicki, which are they've been really creative in using essentially agricultural greenhouses as a way of expanding living space and creating more moderate buffer zones for buildings, so that they don't have to do so much work in the Canadian climate. So there's all these different streams that I think are going to continue overlapping and weaving together in ways over the next few years, but I can't predict how that's going to go.
Yeah.
There was something that we didn't even touch on. Actually, two items, and they're brief. What year did you officially have found the practice?
2016.
2016.
August 1st?
August 1st, 2016.
And it's Office U.
Office U.
Yeah, the legal name is Office U Limited.
That's an interesting question.
There's a difference between legal name and our brand.
Also, I mean, look, we also same thing. Like you have your legal name and your operating name, right?
Yeah.
Potentially. So.
So I mean, but why? We met. Oh my God. Okay. How many evenings did we spend at that little cafe / bar close to Spadina and what is?
Oh yeah, the Sonic. It's not.
The Sonic.
It's not open
there
anymore. Yeah.
How many evenings did we spend there trying to come up with a name? I mean,
we were not best at that.
We're not. We came up with like entire lists and like days and days and days to come up with a name, and the one we settled on was Office U.
Yeah.
I think there was just a feeling that it was just a sound that didn't really have to hold up a lot of expectations.
Ultimately, it was a sound, and it's something that has different meanings to
different people.
people.
So what's the meaning to you?
To me, it's où, as in the French where, because to me, that's where every project starts.
That's what I tell everyone now.
That's the thing.
It's
It's
the most convincing.
It's
but-
like, it's the context. It's the
Yeah.
setting, it's the natural setting, it's the culture, it's everything. It's everything to a project. If you don't know where, you can't design a project.
And also, our whole business is designing a where. Sometimes your where is like a suburban strip mall. As Uros once said, it was like when you're nowhere, you're here. Referring to I don't know, some random place in Brampton or whatever.
That's highly quotable. Great.
But I think that's that's a central problem that we're always trying to grapple with. Where
Yeah.
what makes a place where?
See, that's a convincing post-rationalization right there.
Yeah.
Very, very profound too.
Yeah. And it actually also kind of worked out because I think the year after we made we made the shortlist, we won the competition in Korea.
Yeah.
We got these T-shirts made
Yeah.
with the sound ooh.
I was
So
gonna say that T-shirts are the most convincing thing. We should have
right.
brought some for you
Yeah.
because in Korean, the syllable u, Korean language is syllabic or their alphabet is syllabic. It makes for this like a circle with like T under the circle, so it looks like a little human figure. And we have the T-shirts with that. I mean, it somehow worked out into a very, very cool T-shirt.
So
And
there you go.
Totally coincidental.
Yep. So there you have it.
Wow. Okay. So at this point, where within the world do you have projects? And there actually is something else I'm going to say, and it's going to be a bit of a shameless plug. I apologize.
Go for it.
But it's given the fact that you are, and I feel like we'll get to this with this segue. You're working on the next iteration of Impossible Toronto. I say that because we met through Gabriel Fain, and Gabriel was a panelist on a recent discussion that I had with a few others. So Gabriel was a panelist along with a few others on a topic of the missing middle, and you talked about wanting to design the missing middle. So what I can say with certainty is that now that you're hearing this, you could go to the YouTube channel and you can see this entire dialogue that I have with Gabriel and Nama Blonder and Evan Saskin and Sujin Chung from Studio JCI. So it's a really good group talking about missing middle and how much the city is missing the middle. Mm-hmm. But with that said, so you're working on the next iteration of Impossible Toronto. And I don't know what you can or cannot share about it. So I would leave that to you. And in addition to that, I would say, where else in the world are you working? What types of projects? What's something that's got you really excited? And what's something that you have not yet been able to do that you would really like the chance to do?
Oh my God. That question.
Yeah, right. It's a good one.
That's-
and you,
but
three
that's-
of you might have different answers.
Oh, I don't know if we have different answers. I think we might go to a frustration of ours that's been the case since the beginning of the office, really.
Mhm.
Like, I think we have always, part of the reason we did entries competitions is because we had wanted to do public projects and more landscape scaled projects. And I think maybe I'm going to speak for myself, but I think we would really love to do it in Toronto, right? Like in the city where we actually live in. And it doesn't have to be a whole museum complex. It can be a much smaller thing. But the big frustration, I think the big problem actually for architecture as a practice and architecture as part of Torontonian culture comes from the fact that the procurement system for public projects is entirely closed to offices like ours. Entirely, maybe not 100%, but like 99%.
You can enter it, but you're not getting the call.
You're not getting the call.
Yeah.
You're not getting a sniff of the call.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's a huge, one of the things we discovered in Korea and in Czech Republic as well is that because they have this open competition system where anybody can enter, any architect can enter and can win fairly major commissions, it has an impact on the whole design culture. Suddenly, design and architecture becomes a subject of public conversation.
Right.
Because everybody sees these different proposals for the major projects in their city, and also architects are on the juries of these competitions, so it actually matters. All the stuff that we say that we learn in school or that we say as our self-promotion, here actually might lead to a project, because it is really important. So it is that's really I think the big fight that architects and designers need to fight here in Canada. Like, we need to convince public authorities that we need to have a more open procurement model. We need to have a design-based procurement model, because
it's so risk averse now, and what they end up with is essentially just a repeated mediocrity. And also, you get the building that you get because there's no discussion or real choice. Like when there's the kind of public presentation of what is coming down the pipe, it's often as okay, this has already been designed, and you're just we're just communicating to you what you're going to get. There's no real choice here. And I think that we don't particularly, it's nice to work in other countries, but as Uros said, like you make an investment as an architect when you start a practice in a certain city under a certain set of like laws, a certain network of people you have to get to know. Like, it takes years to be able to build something competently in a place, and not being able to build in the place that you were born is extremely frustrating. And I think that the government and private entities are not getting what they could be getting out of the profession because of the way that they do procurement. I mean, essentially, you have a generation of people who are willing to work for very, very hard for very low fees just for a crack at establishing themselves and building something significant. And the fact that architecture is consigned right now in North America to essentially doing private commissions for wealthy, private landowners, essentially doing like little, let's call them like
infill projects.
Yeah, like infill projects, or doing it's we want to do beautiful things as much as anyone else. I'm not knocking the idea of doing like a beautiful private house, but is this really the right use of a profession that has all this training and all of this history and all of this ambition to just be doing the interiors of people's houses? I mean, we should be making an impact on public life, on the street. This is what we went to school for, and that this is I think the real struggle.
Yeah, I mean, it's an issue of scale, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with us designing beautiful houses, beautiful crafted objects, beautiful small scale things, but our profession these days does not scale. We don't work across scales, and we've been trained. Yeah, I mean, as architect, landscape architect, regional planners, we've been trained to really scale our ability to design, and yeah, we can't do that in North America. And I mean, that's what's also kind of sent us to do work in China and Korea and Czech Republic. So,
you have interviewed some of the best designers in Toronto on your podcast, and maybe you interview some more, and you'll find that a lot of them are doing like, houses and interiors. And obviously, we all want to do that, but we don't want to do just that.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
That's kind of.
You want to have influence on the public, in the public realm.
Yeah.
The civic realm, the institutional realm, like the areas where you can have the most visibility into what you are trying to design for their experience.
Yeah, and the thing is that maybe what also influences that is that we've grown up in cities where our backyards tend to be the city itself. I mean, I grew up in apartments in Paris. We didn't have a backyard or anything. The backyard was the public park. It was the street. It was these areas, the public realm where you got to live your life, where you had these experiences with your friends, these kind of landmark moments, first kisses, and things like that. Like it happened within the public realm, and this is the one place where we don't get, where really we can't kind of have that input to create these spaces for all kinds of life moments.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think that maybe what we're trying to do is actually contrary to the American dream, which is everybody has one of everything, and they have like a tiny slice of the world in their backyard, and this is the kind of the happiest place that anyone can end up. But I'm wagering that that's not enough for most people, or it's not that it could be great for certain people, but I don't think it's for everybody, and I think that it has severe limitations and real consequences on our public life and our politics, on our society. This kind of atomization of space into just like backyards, I think this is. I don't want to say too much on this because we have to recognize that North America has grown into what it is because there's a certain history. It isn't just that we chose, okay, we don't want to live in cities, we want to live in suburbs or small towns.
Yeah. Sure.
The fact of Toronto, the fact of North America is that it's urbanizing all the time in the same direction as the rest of the world.
So I'll say this. I've grown up in the city my entire life, and I actually don't normally get into this discussion on here about Toronto because I personally feel what Toronto is currently is not what it was when I was a kid. It has deviated substantially from that in my growth as a person. But it is also for anyone out there listening to this, if you happen to be listening to this in other parts of the world, what Toronto has here, and I say this proudly, is something completely different than most cities globally. And that is that we have a lot of heads of an office. Heads of an office, that sounds so wrong.
Like, what is he talking
Like,
about? What's he talking about?
Yeah. No.
HQs.
Headquarters. That's what I meant to say.
Right.
We have the headquarters in many global offices. They'll have a headquarters here in Toronto. In addition to that, we have, from an arts standpoint, we have art centers for tons of different cultures. Mm-hmm. They're not all great, but they're here. Okay, we have the opportunities for places like Little Italy and Little Portugal and Chinatown. We have the Danforth, known for its Greek food. Like, we have these pockets of the city that are so dynamic and interesting that lack the design to go with the cultural elements that exist. Mm-hmm. But in addition to all of that, you also have, like, every major artist tours here for music. Yeah. Every big play that tours in North America comes through here. And in addition to all of that, you have every major sports team in downtown Toronto. Mm-hmm. So from just an immersive cultural standpoint, you have so much, and yet it misses on the public elements. So that all of these people that are coming as tourists to this city go to a park, they can't sit mm-hmm. properly and have a view. Yeah. And they want to go to the ferry to get on the island, and the ferry's run down and it's trash, and you get to the island and it's garbage. And I'm sorry that I'm saying this, but like it's the reality. And part of the enjoyment of having this kind of conversation right now that I'm now ranting on, that you're all nodding to, is that's what we're missing.
Yeah, and I mean, that's
love it.
Yeah, no, but that's and kind of that leads to a lot of like very interesting things. I think you're bang on that kind of the fact that we have a lot of things already happening in the city. I think it was wonderful to see during the World Series the comparison between the shots of the Sky Dome and sorry, I'm going to keep calling it the Sky Dome.
It is the Sky Dome.
It is the Sky Dome. It's always been the Sky Dome.
The shots of the Sky Dome surrounded by the city.
You're not sponsoring the podcast, but if you want to, you can pay, and I'll say Roger Sky.
And I will say Roger Sky Dome as well. So the shots of the Sky Dome in the middle of the city, and then the shots of Dodger Stadium in the middle of a sea of parking lots.
Yes.
And the fact that you can go to all of these venues within the city is absolutely wonderful.
The players they have condos and they're walking there.
Yeah. Sorry. And I think that's a wonderful thing. What's less wonderful is that in many ways I don't think we advocate for our own city as much as we could. Yes. I think we take a lot of things for granted.
We also try to be everything to everyone. And when you're trying to be everything to everyone, you can't be something.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting. I mean, I wonder, maybe not everywhere, but I think there is a way of, and maybe that's part of the way we design our spaces and architecture, where we design not only in space but in time. So a lot of architecture is not about what you design spatially, but is about how you schedule spaces. Yeah. And because a lot of living in a city is about relationships between different people, between different, I would say, varied groups of urban stakeholders that have to come together and live together. And those are the spaces where those tensions get negotiated, get
Right.
worked out, where those kind of cultures intersect, and this is the wonderful thing that happens when you have these big flexible, when you have these spaces that support kind of cultural input. And
yeah, I think that Toronto is in fact a metropolis. It has all of the assets and life of a metropolis, but it doesn't have the physical assets of a metropolis. It doesn't believe it's a metropolis. It's always trying to act like it is still like a kind of polite Victorian era town. And I think that I think we're finally waking up to the fact that we really do need to treat ourselves like, on the scale and with the ambition of Chicago or New York.
I have tons of family in Chicago, and I love Chicago. I'm there once a year. I mean, we should be bigger than Chicago. We should be on the scale of a New York. 100%. I mean, I'm just going to say this because I have felt this for many years, and this is a conversation I have with so many friends of mine. I've never brought it on here, but when I talk about the professional sports and the arts that exist in this city, there isn't another city in all of North America that has all of the professional sports teams playing in the heart of downtown. It doesn't exist anywhere.
Yeah, and even if you're not into professional sports, it brings a livelihood to the city. That's amazing.
100%. But if you're not into sports, those stadiums become places for concerts.
That's right.
They become places for other types of exhibits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of everything. Like, it doesn't exist in North America.
Yeah.
We should be able to do more.
I would say that the other thing that maybe puts us at a disadvantage from the point of view of having a thriving city is that I don't know that we've fully embraced our climate and our seasons. And that is always a very strange thing to me, that it feels like we're living in a city without much of a seasonal change or an appreciation of seasonal changes. Sure, we're living in Canada, foliage changes in the fall. Maybe you do slightly different activities. Maybe there are skating rinks around and you go skating in the winter. But I don't know that we fully embraced, to the extent that we could, the seasonality of our place, which in so many places, seasonality is what makes the place unique and wonderful. And I'm thinking of, I worked in Japan for a bit, been to Japan many, many times. And the wonderful thing is the nuances of seasonality there. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's something we could do here, Now you'll hear a Jew praising Christmas markets. One of my greatest memories from being a child is going to visit my grandparents in Strasbourg and going to Christmas markets. It is such a lively, wonderful way to animate every single pocket of the city.
They've tried to do it downtown in the distillery.
And that is I don't know if you have sponsors. Tried. It is marketed to no end with lots of sponsors everywhere. I don't know if that's still the case. You used to have to pay to get in. The way it works in Strasbourg, where my grandparents were, you walk to every little plaza, and every little plaza has a little market that provides you with food, that provides you with little objects that you can buy for your family as gifts. Right. But it is a place where people get together, and it's a place to kind of find some livelihood and light during the darkest times of the year, because it is visually darker.
I'm imagining it's more like Halloween, where it's like everybody participates in it rather than it just being a big commercial production.
And it's a wonderful thing, and I just feel like we need to, and it doesn't need to be a religious thing, but we can lean into the specificity of the seasons just to bring that livelihood to every single month of the year.
Yeah, you're going to say.
I was going to say, I was going back to your original point, which I think was a very, very, very good one. I think often, like when we get into the discussion, and I was guilty with as well earlier, it ends up sounding like a critique of Toronto and a praise of these other places, like praise of Europe or praise of Japan. And I really don't want listeners to think that that's what's happening here, because as you pointed out entirely correctly, like we live in this magical place.
It's incredible.
It's an incredible magical place.
The transit sucks.
Yeah.
But it could be a lot worse.
Yeah. So
I don't know that it could be worse.
No, it could be.
So like it is like extremely diverse, and like we all get along.
Yeah.
And like it's all these things are happening here, like amazing diversity of activities happening here from all kinds of cultures from all over the world.
Yep.
And really, like there aren't I don't know if there's any other place around the world that is quite like this. Like people say, you know, London's diverse, New York diverse. It's not diverse in the same way Toronto is diverse. They still have very strong, dominant kind of cultures there, into which these other ones kind of plug in. But we are much more genuinely multicultural and tolerant and like open to difference than any of those places. But there is this kind of but, right? Like
always there's an asterisk.
There's an asterisk, right? Like for whatever reason it is, we all have to pretend we are living in this fake Victorian city. Like that diversity does not translate into diversity of urban spaces. It does not translate into diversity of urban typologies.
Yes.
Right? Like, or like public spaces, parks, like all the parks kind of look the same with the shitty benches and like nothing there.
Donated
like,
by.
Donated by, yeah.
No?
Like all the streets are like fake Victorian streets with brick veneers. Like it's like why what is missing? And I think there is some kind of level of confidence missing to just kind of say like let's become what
That's
what
it.
we
Let's
can.
just
Yeah.
let's pull up our pants
Well, I think
and be something special finally.
Well, one thing that you can notice around the city is that a lot of buildings are in a poor state of repair, and it's not an accident. It's just everybody knows that the land is worth more than the buildings, but the zoning and the kind of various other factors have kind of limited the actual development and the density. And so I always feel like Toronto is waiting to become itself. It's waiting for its time to actually turn into. Everyone kind of knows that, you know, these little buildings, these little, you know, houses here and there, they're kind of absurd for the scale and dynamism of the city as it is now. But we're waiting for something to happen before we can actually change or metamorphose. And I think that actually, I think Uros mentioned that word typology, which is a really interesting one. It's a bit of like architecture jargon, but it's worth talking about because what we're talking about with the typology is not just like a single design project for one house or one apartment building or one office or whatever. It's about essentially a pattern of building, a certain type of construction that becomes like the fabric of the city. And what we need to figure out is what is the fabric of Toronto going forward into the rest of the 21st century? And it's a question that we don't grapple with very often, like at a high level, because you know what we build ends up being a kind of accident that is combined out of what happens to be legal with the zoning code this year, where the building code is now, what the economics of you know, land transfer taxes and park levies and development charges and construction loans. And it just kind of produces something, but it's not very deliberately thought out. And I think this, you know, at the Impossible Toronto event, Zoe, you know, very correctly pointed out that this is something that we need to start doing deliberately, is thinking about the city, not just in terms of monuments, but as you know, an entire fabric. What is it going to be? You know, what kind of life can it support?
I think it's a question of pluralization here, because right now we're being forced into one fabric by the restrictive frameworks that we're at the mercy of. But what we need is to figure out what are the fabrics rather than just one fabric. How do they intersect? And
we need possibility for other typologies to emerge, because I think you started this by mentioning the term missing middle, right? And can like we have kind of by a very, I mean, maybe strange, unintentional, but it is the reality now. We have ended up being at the, I would say, at the forefront of the missing middle kind of development here in Toronto as an office. We do not only a number of sixplexes, but we also are, you know, working on what's likely to be like a first single stair apartment building in a residential neighborhood. But I think I was going to say the problem with the term like missing middle, and I would say it's one of my pet peeves that I hope gets adopted more broadly. It's defining the issue entirely in terms of in quantitative terms. So missing is a quantitative absence, and middle is just it's like a relative location compared to single detached houses and tall condos, right? So like it's saying that like there is a quantitative problem here. Whereas I think what we as architects need to say is there's actually a qualitative problem, is that at this particular scale of, you know, like 3-4 stories, the things Sebastian mentioned, which are the codes and zoning regulations, limit us to an extremely few typologies, which are also very, very strange typologies, like stacked townhouses, like multiplexes, like that are basically stacked townhouse form.
Yeah.
Like these are, I'm okay. We should have some of those, but effectively we have to build those because that's what the code allows. It's the only thing code allows at a 3 to 4 story kind of height. That's the missing middle one. So I think it's really a problem of like we need a more plurality of missing middle typologies, and we need to think of it in terms of quality. We need better quality typologies at that scale.
Yeah, like we think that there's a real risk of a backlash coming from the city. It needs to build more housing. We know that that's an imperative, but a lot of the housing is like, look at the condo market, and obviously a lot of these units were built for investors who evidently have different needs from real families or individuals who have to live in that space every day. And I think that the resale prices of the condos are testament to the fact that we have really neglected the quality of the buildings that we construct, and this is going to become a huge problem because you've kind of essentially locked the city into a massive investment of built fabric, which is kind of inadequate for any real use.
Well, and where the kind of de facto units are units that are not suitable for aging at home, that are not accessible units, and those are big issues, especially in an aging population we have. I mean, those are things that that's going to come back to.
Yeah, the public discourse has been we need more housing, we need more housing, we need more supply, we need more supply, and that's all true, but that's not what we as architects are responsible for. It's really, the planners should provide zoning for more housing supply, and the state policy should provide some kind of incentives for more housing supply. We as architects have professional responsibility to take care that supply is of high quality.
I'm going to say this on this topic because I actually think that this is a good, solid topic for the roundtable discussion. As another roundtable series. The missing middle is one thing, but the topic of overall design, but when the design relates to development, but then also who wins those projects, and just deconstructing what that looks like and the history of it, I think is an interesting conversation to be had. I want to say to you that I sincerely appreciate you coming and doing this. This has been a lot of fun, and the dialogue here has transitioned from you talking about Legos to deconstructing code and the worldly travels that have associated with that, and the competitions, and the chance of meeting each other, right? With billions of people in the world, that you come together and have the same ideologies for what you want to be able to put out there is a pretty special thing. And the only other 3 people that I've interviewed together were the founders of KPMB. So I think it's pretty cool that I was able to do this with the 3 of you. Given what you describe as what you're looking for your business, but also for what you want for the world, it's a pretty special thing. So a long-winded thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
It was a great opportunity for us to actually sit down and talk to each other again as well.
You're being too kind. Thanks for the wine.
I didn't say that. So I guess we'll close with that. Because we were sitting in here and it's Friday afternoon, I offered everyone wine, so we've been drinking wine. So with that said, thanks again.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.